David, what is going to be the most noticeable change for people in Canada now that Charles is the king? Is there going to be any noticeable change at all?
I can't imagine there'll be much of a noticeable change. Perhaps our currency will be converted, our coins, even though we're moving to a cashless society, will bear his visage, and perhaps a $20 bill. For the most part, we'll just be seeing him in the newspapers, tabloids, and some news shows. We'll probably be seeing more of William and Kate as well, because Charles, I think, well understands that he's not as popular as his mother. So he'll be wanting to share the stage with William and Kate, allowing citizens both in the Commonwealth and in Britain to anticipate that there'll be a newer generation stepping in the shoes of the monarch.
Allan, Charles has been connected to what some people might call more political causes than his mother was. I think he's well known for raising concerns around climate change and the environment. Do you think that political angle to Charles might change now that he's king? And are there any legal constraints on the monarch's ability to engage on political issues?
I don't think there are any legal constraints. There are conventions, which are kind of in that mushy territory between law and non-law, that suggest the monarch should be non-political. But clearly, Prince Charles laid out his particular views. Now, I don't think these are objectionable views, but my sense would be, let's keep it to symbol and spectacle. We really don't need advice from people with a background of Prince Charles. We're hereditary, incredibly privileged from a particular part of society. We're pluralistic. So I think that he'll probably be quiet for a while. After that, it's not clear. And I agree with David that he'll utilize the celebrity of his children to benefit him.
Yes, his children, who I imagine are more popular than he is. His mother was more popular than he was. Ben, any sense of polling information on the popularity of the monarchy in Canada right now? How do people feel about the monarchy in general? How do they feel about the different people involved in it? And does that matter?
To be honest, I don't think it matters too much. I suspect the kind of I think polls generally show that if Canadians were to kind of redesign the system from scratch, I'm sure very few people would actually pick the system we have. They wouldn't structure it exactly as we do. But I think it's also quite clear that there's very little appetite to actually do anything about it. And I think, to be honest, that's probably, I actually think that's a feature and not a bug of the way that monarchy currently works in Canada. I think the kind of general kind of ambivalence and apathy people have towards it is actually quite a healthy attitude to have towards a monarch. And if anything, of course, people are wondering, how is Charles going to fill? How is King Charles going to fill Queen Elizabeth's shoes? Obviously those are tough shoes to fill. But I don't actually necessarily think it's a bad thing that King Charles is not going to command quite the same affection and admiration that the Queen did, precisely because I think that ultimately and perhaps we'll get to this later on, that ultimately the value of having a kind of symbolic head of state, a symbolic figurehead like this, is precisely that we have a kind of a head of figure that's formally very powerful, but kind of in many ways kind of diffuses a lot of power in some ways, and certainly symbolically diffuses it. So if anything, I think Charles's lack of popularity might maybe change the polling a little bit on the monarchy. I think if anything, it might actually be quite good for the institution.
David, anything you want to comment on in that? Do you think that the support might shift now that Charles is the new king? And do you think that, as Ben said, that maybe that's a good thing for the institution?
Sure. I mean, for the first time in my lifetime, public opinion polling, for what it's worth, indicates that the Canadian public has an appetite just over 50% for abolition of the monarchy. And certainly we know the numbers disfavoring Charles are even higher. So there's some conversation that's going on. And I think that this moment is a good one because it allows us to reflect on how we govern ourselves and who serves as our head of state. So I think it's a good moment to reflect on this. And it seems to me that as Charles continues on in his tenure, we'll have more of these conversations. And to the extent that he serves this office well or not, will help shape how that conversation ensues. I would differ from Ben in saying that I don't think he has big shoes to fill. I mean, he has to walk around and smile a lot and be treated like, well, literally like royalty, and be one of the wealthiest
Right.
people in the world. So I don't think he has to do much. He'll probably keep the media
We've
at
got to
bay.
go. We've got to go to break, but we'll be right back.